fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, see. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah!
Hi-ho, Coolest Geeks. Jesse Blaze Snider here, and that is perhaps the most appropriate introduction that I've ever made. Well, I mean, I do that all the time when I do the show. I go, hi-ho, Jesse Blaze Snider here, and that's what fucking Kermit the Frog says when he's on Sesame Street. Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here, and whatever it is. And today I am here to talk about the great Jim Henson, the coolest geek who ever lived. Jim's legacy can be felt far and wide in so many things. He just knocked down so many doors and broke so many barriers and just created so many incredible things. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that one man could be responsible for so much greatness. And they are all subculture. It's all nerdy shit, you know. Hey, let's like make some puppets talk together, and great group dynamics and getting great teams together. Teams that worked so well together for years and years, and held together by Jim. It's just he's just the greatest man who ever lived, as far as I'm concerned. I adore Jim Henson. He's my idol. He's the person that I look up to the most, next to my father and my mother. And Jim is just otherworldly to me. Just thinking about him makes me happy. And there's so many things. When I was a kid, my mom introduced me to the Muppet Show at a very young age, and that was a huge musical influence for me. I'm a musician, and I'm very eclectic in the type of music that I make because of the Muppet Show. Even though I was raised on rock and roll by Dee Snider, I was still brought up by like a range of things by Kermit the Frog and the rest of the Muppets. And so the Muppets, I love the Muppets. And Sesame Street, I used to watch Sesame Street all the time. And, really connected with those characters. And, and there was tons of movies and things early. I'm going to go through like all the filmography. And there were some of these things that I grew up with, like movies like the Christmas Toy or the Muppet Musicians of Bremen, which I just recently watched again with my kids. They didn't really watch it. I kind of watched it by myself. They were doing other things. It wasn't a good time for me to put it on. I was just kind of like feeling nostalgic. And I was like, this is available? Fuck. I put it on. But it is really cool, and it is worthwhile. And if I could get some popcorn on with the kids and watch it, and like, it's not the best quality, the one on YouTube, but it's great. It really holds up. Most of the great Muppet stuff holds up, and Muppet stuff is, I should say, Jim Henson stuff. And there's a wide range of this, and I'm going to go into some of the things that you can thank Jim for, basically, like the Creature Shop, like Frank Oz. There are so many little things that we'll talk about along the way. And I'm not here to, give Jim's biography. If you want to find out like all the factoids about Jim, I've read so many books about Jim, but I'm not good at holding on to that sort of information. I could tell you he had a great wife who worked with him from the very beginning and helped him, build things up. He built things up through small, like public access television kind of thing, making little guest appearances, doing commercials. There's some great commercials that you can go find produced, by usually Jim performing as Ralph the Dog in a lot of them. But there's a lot of them. I don't want to get like names wrong for some of these brands, but if you type in like Jim Henson commercials on YouTube, you'll get some great stuff. Really funny stuff too. I mean, really genuinely funny. And then he was making appearances on the Jimmy Dean show and whatnot. And I'll have some references to this in a little bit because I'm going to go through his filmography. But they built this up, and it was Jane and Jim, for a very long time. And then he brought in other people, and Jane was still very much a part of it, training people to be puppeteers, and obviously a major part of Jim's life. And she brought in famously Steve Whitmire, who was was it Rizzo the Rat? David Goles is Gonzo. So Steve Whitmire's Rizzo the Rat, and who went on to do Kermit for a little while and other characters as well. Anyway, Steve's great. He's one of my favorite puppeteers in the Henson crew of people. Anyway, Jim is, as far as I'm concerned, a mind-blowing intellect in so many ways. And what he really did at the end of the day was he broke down people's prejudices about puppets. And it seems like a silly thing. But, and people forget this now because Disney has Disneyfied the Muppets, and the Muppets have sucked ever since. But the original idea behind the Muppet Show was that it was a show that was aimed at adults, but kids could watch too. That was it. It was aimed at adults, but kids could watch too. And that has been lost. That spirit of aimed at adults, but kids could watch it. They've mistaken it for Sesame Street. And a lot of this comes from the fact that people who have been hired behind the scenes for the Muppets, they don't understand the Muppets. They don't get the humor. They don't get it at all. They're just like, they were like, yeah, the Muppets, I'd love to work on that. And now they're working on a property that they don't love. Famously, I wrote some Muppet Snow White comic books, miniseries. There was a lot of things that I was like pitching and trying to work on for this Muppet license. And the Muppet license was it was just like, there was a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And the writer who was representing the Henson Company was tone deaf to the material. He wrote everything like it was Sesame Street. And that was hard because he was the Henson guy, and the Henson guy was not on the ball in terms of like what kind of humor and what we were going for. And then least of which the Disney people who were trying to get me to add whoopee cushions and rubber chickens into the backgrounds of comic book panels because somehow they thought that would add humor to the book. Ha ha ha! A whoopee cushion. It's just like fucking stupid. They ruined lots of like great parts of my book. I mean, really, they ruined the whole book by I didn't have the heart to add more joke. They wanted me to add a joke to every panel, and I was just like, I can't do it. I was just like, it broke my heart because I was so. I don't want to say like, I was pleased with what I did, like I'm like an asshole, and I was like, I'm so pleased with what I did, but like I'm a Muppets fan, and I put so much fucking love into this book and tried to squeeze in so many characters and just handle them right, and I was so proud. I was so proud of myself. I wrote the second issue and the third issue in like a day each. 2 days later, like it was like boom, 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 handed in 3 scripts, and I was about to write the 4th issue on Friday, and I'm like, I'm gonna write this whole thing. And that morning I woke up to my notes on issue 1, and I was devastated. I had like 5 different colors. You get them in the Word document. There's 5 different people talking about your script, and the least of which was my editor, Aaron, who's one of my best friends, and he had a few notes in there or whatever, but it was generally, like a cool. I like this. This is nice. And then their notes were just so fucking mundane and stupid and like, and kids are going to be adults are going to be reading this Muppet Fairy Tales thing to their children. It's not going to be like adults reading this book by themselves, the Muppet Fairy Tales in particular. Like, it's designed really for like parents to buy it for their kids. And they are just completely sorry, my cat is like freaking out outside. He's got his legs stuck on the freaking okay, come on. I told you I had to do my show and that you were going to be out there by yourself. I warned him. That's Ozzy Ozcat. He's the sweetest cat, so it's okay. But I don't remember what I was talking about, Ozzy. I lost my train of thought. Now I have to pause and go back or something. Or do I remember? Give me a moment. This break has been brought to you by Ozzy Ozcat. He's a sweetheart. I wrote him a song. It goes, Ozzy, 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 Ozcat. He's like a lion. Wait, is he like a lion? Something, I forget how it goes. It's cute. It's cute, I promise. All right, I'm pausing and I'm going back and I'm finding out where the fuck I was. Oh yeah. So so they were telling me to add a joke to every panel of this book that I knew was going to be read by parents to kids, and I had written it very consciously, recognizing that parents were probably going to be reading this to their kids, and I tried to make the book rather brisk, not like, be lazy and not write it or anything. I mean, there's plenty going on, and there's plenty of parts where it was less than brisk, but I tried to make up for the parts that were less than brisk by making some of the other parts a little bit more brisk, and to go in and add a joke to every panel. I mean, it was just like, as a writer, as a comic book writer, and understanding, doing comedy and comic books and how it really works best, you've got to be kind of elegant with it, horror and comedy, both things, and rather heavy-handed to go in and add all these jokes. They brought in another writer who's a friend of mine, Patrick Stork. Shout out Patrick Stork. Yo, dude, thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Thanks for doing what I couldn't do. And Pat was like, he felt bad about it because it was like, I was making all the jokes that were there to make, so he was having to like fucking make shit up. And he got a couple good ones, but for the most part, it just, it just wasn't meant to. It's bloated now. So, I say all that just to go, this is like the kind of thinking that goes into the modern Disney, like just notes and fucking stupidity and overthinking and a fundamental misunderstanding of the characters, like, Miss Piggy and the Muppet characters. I've talked about this before, and I'll just, say a bit right now, but the Muppets are, man, they're this amazing artistic growing tool, because what the Muppets represent are people of all variety who have special purpose within them, and each one of the Muppets sort of represents this special purpose that they can't get right. Fozzie Bear wants to be a comedian, but he's fucking terrible, and he literally has two old guys reminding him of how terrible he is every night. The Electric Mayhem want to be big rock stars, but Animal, breaks the set before the show is finished, and they'd never finish a song. And Gonzo's going to be a weirdo, but he keeps almost blowing everything up and setting the place on fire. And Miss Piggy's, wants to be a glamorous supermodel, but she's a pig. And, and that pig metaphor is much deeper than she's a pig, which tends to be focused on, like, oh, we don't like them. It's a metaphor. She's pig-headed. She's a jerk. She's unconscious and selfish, and she doesn't deserve what she wants. Right? This is one of the reasons why that stupid show that they did, the Muppets, didn't work, because they gave Piggy what she didn't deserve. And nobody who was ever watching the Muppet Show was like, you know what? They should do a show where Miss Piggy gets everything she's ever wanted and gets to boss everybody around. Yeah, that'll be funny. Now it's like fundamentally like, what the fuck? The fuck? And Kermit is a frog running a variety show. Traditionally, that's something that's done by human beings. I've never seen a frog do it before. It's interesting seeing a frog do it. Of course, he's doing it the way that, like, they tell you not to do it. He's bringing in all of his friends and all the people that he has, like, emotional relationships with, and he's letting everybody get time on stage, even if they suck, even if the Swedish chef can't finish a fucking meal, even if Sam the Bald Eagle can't finish an interview, even if Wayne and Wanda can't get through a dance. It's all the same kind of ultimate thing. And what does that teach people who are watching at home? Well, creative people like me go, well, if these people are brave enough to keep going out there, even though they're failing spectacularly, certainly I'm better than these Muppets. I can do it. That's where the saying comes from. These fucking Muppets. If you go over to Britain, they're like, you're a Muppet. You Muppet. You Muppet. I always like hearing that because it really sums it up. Like the Brits get it. You're a Muppet. They can't fucking get it right. That's why they shouldn't have a successful show. It's got to be like trying to get a show. That's the Muppets. Anyway, Jim Henson is brilliant. We're going to go through all the reasons why, and as we go through his career, and I'm just going to kind of start with films from him. He's made a bunch of short films. I don't remember how many I've seen of them. I think I've seen at least one. I don't remember which one it is. I think it was Timepiece. I think it was the first one.
it was silent and interesting, but not the kind of thing that you'd like watch a lot of times. So I don't remember it very well. I'm sure it was something that would be a little bit more appreciated by budding filmmakers and film students. People appreciate film a little bit more than I do. I mean, like, I love movies and stuff, but I still have yet to kind of get into the minutia of editing and stuff. I really feel like it takes you out of the experience, so I try not to think about it too much. But yeah, he's done a few short films over the years, and those are cool or whatever. But I'm not really gonna recommend those, as first thing. Okay, so first thing as we get into his films, because like this kind of thrusts us into things, even though we'll talk about like his early history when we get into TV. Obviously, if you haven't watched the Muppet movies that were made while Jim was alive, you got to do that. His son Brian did a great job continuing the legacy afterwards. Muppets Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island, and Muppets from Space are all excellent and produced by Brian Henson. And I wish they'd stuck with them and not, like it didn't quite capture what Jim had captured, but, I think they really could have built on that and didn't have to go another way and reinvent the wheel. The first one in 1979 is the Muppet movie. Which is produced by Jim, but he directs the next one, The Great Muppet Caper, which is a favorite of mine. But the Muppet movie and The Great Muppet Caper are amazing. The Muppet movie's interesting and simple. I found myself watching and rewatching The Great Muppet Caper and The Muppets Take Manhattan over and over again. Those ones are really great and have a lot of pathos. The thing about the Muppets is they're genuinely funny when they're funny, and it comes from character and it comes from interrelationships between the types of characters and just sort of like playing off of the basic premise of each person's character. And when that's done right, it's just comedy gold and wonderful. And also when that's done right, it can be really emotional and really impactful and really cool. And the Muppets have always had this great balance of being sweet and hysterical at the same time, and kind of, I think, get both out of you from that. They get a richer laugh out of you because you love these people. A nervous laughter when Fozzie's doing his thing. It's just so funny because you empathize with these puppets. I've been saying one of the major problems with the Transformers movies that they've been making lately, not lately, but since they started making the movies, other than the animated one, is they're afraid to humanize the robots. And by being afraid to humanize the robots and relying on the humans to be like the heart of the story or whatever, you never really give two shits about the robots. And, whenever you watch the cartoons, I always cared about the robots. I cared about them a lot. And the cartoons, if I remember correctly, would spend a decent amount of time humanizing them and their motivations and whatever it is, even though they're robots, they're motivated by something, and like that's the things that really make us care. And like, just, we need to get the Cybertron crystal, and it's like, who gives a shit? It's like MacGuffin City, so when you make up a thing for everybody to chase, it's not very satisfying. But meanwhile, you got Jim Henson, who's making everybody fall in love with a hand in some fabric, and his whole group is getting great people beyond that. David Golez, who plays Gonzo, and other characters, and Steve Whitmire, who does Rizzo, and there's so many performers who have come through and since, just like all the Fraggle Rock performers. And Brian Henson, his son, is a great performer who's done some great characters here or there. We'll talk about some of that stuff. It's incredible the legacy this man has. So if you haven't seen, to watch the Muppet movie, it's just so classic, and it might seem like a little passé or whatever if you go back to watch the Muppet movie, but the Rainbow Connection is there, and it's got this great ending with all these Muppets, and with the Sesame Street Muppets show up. It's really cool. It's like a little cameo thing in the studio, and they sing, "Life's like a movie, write your own ending, keep believing, keep pretending, we've done just what we've set out to do. Thanks to the lovers, the dreamers, and you." Damn it. Sorry, made me get all misty-eyed. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Wanted to live my life like that. I do. I do. I live my life like that. It's very nice. It's nice to be a dreamer. And, that's what, like, Jim Henson, and that's what his legacy, means so much to me. I should have known I was going to start crying talking about Jim Henson. He's my favorite. Keep believing. Keep pretending. I mean, this man went his whole life pretending, creating these beautiful worlds. And I mean, this is just the beginning. The Muppets. We just talked about Sesame Street, and we're going to get into more. But that first film, the Muppet movie, obviously, I love the Muppets. I should have known. I recorded the show late at night. I've been running late. I'm doing this music show. All Your Favorite Bands Suck. It's super fun. But sometimes it gets a little bit like homework, listening to all the music. I had a lot of 311 albums that I had to listen to just because I love 311, and I wanted to make sure that I had gone through all their stuff and I could recommend all their albums, and they have so many albums that I love. So I was a little late, and then I was a little late on this. I've been really busy. I'm traveling. I'm in California. I'm doing this spiritual retreat this weekend, though, and I'm really excited about it because I feel like I'm kind of about ready to pop. So I'm exhausted on top of it, and I'm doing this late at night. So you're getting Jesse, who's exhausted and emotional, and now I'm gonna cry a bunch. Probably. I'll try to hold it and try to keep myself together. All right. So the Muppet movie is just fabulous, but I like even better The Great Muppet Caper after that in 81 and 1984. The people who they got to write songs, I think I want to say Joshua Williamson. I might be wrong about that, but maybe I'm right. The Great Muppet Caper, dude, there's a song from the beginning where they're in a cab and they're heading to this hotel that they're staying at called the Happiness Hotel, and it's just such a fucking awesome song. If you got luggage, keep it handy, 'cause you're running out of luck, 'cause the bellhops ain't too organized and the elevator's stuck. But if you don't mind friendly animals and can learn to stand the smell, you'll fit right in to Happiness Hotel. It's fucking funny. The whole song's really funny. It's just about how shitty the hotel is. but it's great. The Great Muppet Caper and The Muppets Take Manhattan. Which is basically Kermit wants to be a playwright. They kind of put on a thing in college, and they part ways, and eventually they do come back in the end. But when they part ways, there's this song that kills me. I did a cover of it a few years ago. This is one of the most beautiful songs ever. Again, I think by the same people. Saying goodbye, why is it sad? Makes us remember the good times we've had. Something, what is it? Wondering why it's time for saying goodbye. It's so beautiful. It's such a pretty song. It's time for saying goodbye. Beautiful. Beautiful, funny, heartfelt, great stuff. I mean, the movies are not The Muppet Show, and to truly appreciate The Muppets, you really have to watch The Muppet Show. And I'll talk about it more a little bit when we go into the TV portion of things here. But The Muppet Show is where it's at. And that, watching the original Muppet Show, which still holds up largely, some of it may be passé, but the songs are great, and lots of the sketches are fucking hysterical, and lots of the sketches are just amusing and fun, and it's worth getting into, and just fun. It's fun watching these creatures and these different things, and there's a zany personality to it all. Really, you got to check that out. Finishing the filmography here. In between this, he does The Dark Crystal, which was a bit of. It's funny. I always liked The Dark Crystal, wanted to like it more, but I found the writing of it, I found a little light, or at least it wasn't well conceived. It wasn't well laid out, wasn't richly told. I'm not sure. The world was richly made, and it was very interesting. A lot of it kind of creeped me out, though, as a kid. However, they continued the story by doing a prequel to The Dark Crystal in the Dark Crystal Resistance. It's on Netflix, and it's incredible. It is a love letter to Jim Henson and a half, and it's better than the fucking Dark Crystal. It makes the Dark Crystal that much better. And if you're a Dark Crystal fan, go watch it. And if you are not a Dark Crystal fan and never watched Dark Crystal, watch the Dark Crystal Resistance first, and then watch the Dark Crystal, knowing that, like, you know, it's going to be a step back in a way or two, but that, like, everything that show is ultimately built for the Dark Crystal, which it's beautiful. It's so beautiful what they did. So this was really ambitious, and it was a little bit of a setback for him in his career. I remember reading in his book that he was a bit devastated by some of the, you know, reaction or critical review or whatever different things. But man, a lot of love went into the Dark Crystal, and as something that you know, something that stands the test of time now. And I'm so glad it exists, and you know, and I hope he's looking down from heaven, glad to see how many people have been turned on to, and glad to see what they did with his. Oh God, I'm just, like, touches me. It's so good what they made. Anyway, in 1985, they did Sesame Street Presents Follow That Bird. It's great. It's a little bit, like, harrowing and, like, too emotional. I remember as a kid just being, like, sort of like, wow, by like just so many of the emotions that I felt watching Sesame Street Presents Follow That Bird. But it's like, it's great. It's like the right kind of things to think about and feel and understand, and it's really solid flick. He only plays Kermit the Frog in that, but it's a very good one. You know, so many of these I think are existentially, you know, produced with the Jim Henson label on it. It'd be great if I could just get a list of all those things. But there's so many of those things that aren't necessarily like the things that we want to, like, focus on. Additionally, Jim produced The Witches in 1990. And The Witches is fucking great. If you've never seen that, with Angelica Houston as the mean witch, and they got all these great Creature Shop effects. Creature Shop is the creature house that makes, like, monsters and animatronics. I'm going to talk about that more later, because that's a really exciting subject, because that's more of the legacy of Jim Henson, which is just so vast. The Witches is great. Always love The Witches. I think they remade it recently, but the original is awesome. I don't know if I saw the remake. And then in 1991, shortly before his death, he did Muppet Vision 3D, which he directed himself. Muppet Vision 3D is a favorite of mine. It stinks that it's not there anymore. If you've never been able to experience Muppet Vision 3D, it's really excellent. I think you can find it on, like, YouTube. Thank God for YouTube. And now, like, things that you can't find, like, they show up on YouTube. And if you get creative with your searches, sometimes you'll find things that, like, seem like they're not there, but they're there. They're there, yo. They're there. And there's so much Muppet stuff. When we get into these TV things here, because a lot of them are TV films, and you can find some of these great things. And I didn't have YouTube when I was a fan, like, growing up. I ended up hooking up with a guy who went by the name of Kermit Clown something or other, and he was a big Muppet fan, and he would, like, do different exchanges. I forget what I had. I think I had some VHSs or something that I'd gotten a hold of that he didn't have. Some Muppet Babies on VHS. I worked at a Blockbuster Video for a little while, and when we were getting rid of VHSs, we were supposed to throw them all away, but I went back in the dumpster afterwards, and I snagged out all the Muppets, and then a couple different, like, TV shows, like the Flash TV show, and, like, a couple different things that were, like, I was like, fuck, man, these aren't on DVD. I don't know if they'll ever be. And I was really lucky for the Muppet Show too. I mean, not the Muppet Show, the Muppet Babies, because, like, that stuff's still not available. Even though I don't have the VHSs anymore, I lost them in my fire. Oh, but you can find a lot of this shit on YouTube now, thank God. So that's super cool. But I did get tons of stuff at the time on like DVDs, burned DVDs from Kermit Clown in exchange for some things that I gave his way, but he definitely gave me way more than I gave him. So going into Jim's television career, like I said, at first, just as an actor, doing characters like Pierre the French Rat and, Sam and Yorick and Kermit, early versions of Kermit, on the Junior Morning Show, Saturday afternoon with Inga, in Our Town, which I think these were all just kind of like morning shows in the mid 50s. So then in the late 50s to late 60s, they did a show called Sam and Friends, which was airing on WRC TV, which I think was kind of like a public, like it was pretty small scale, but made noise, and Sam and Friends has got some great stuff. You can go watch like a Sam and Friends highlight reel. Some of it could be a little boring sometimes. Most of it though is generally kind of fun and Antarctic and silly, and some of it is really genuinely great. As time goes on, they get cleverer and cleverer. So some of it seems a little like lame compared to what they go on to do. But Sam and Friends is cool, and if you get into the Muppets and all these other things, going back and checking out some of this stuff is highly recommended. But even, at any point in time, you can go back and check out some highlights from their commercials and stuff. It's great. It's just great to go see them. So then he played Sam in additional Muppets in Footlight Theater. I don't know anything about Footlight Theater. There's Tales of the Tinker D, which is an early one. It says here that it was an unaired pilot that's available on YouTube. I hadn't thought that it was unaired. I thought that it was aired. But he produced that and wrote it and acted in it. Early bits of his new styles, new kinds of puppets and stuff that they were trying with. It's like some of their breakaway stuff for them, like kind of doing more with it than they had with Sam and Friends, which, like I said, is a little bit like mundane compared to what they started to do, which was a little bit more interesting. Even though what they were doing from the very beginning was interesting, they're just such innovators that they kept like kind of out innovating themselves. Anyway, they were on the Jimmy Dean Show pretty regularly as Ralph the dog as a guest. And there's another short that comes out called The Cube, which I don't know why that one's here on the TV thing. Maybe it aired on TV. The Cube. It doesn't say here what it aired. I think The Cube was one of his other shorts, and maybe I watched that one too. I'm not sure. Like I said, I only watched them once, and they were like art films. Then there's the Wizard of Id test pilot. I don't remember much about that, but apparently that's available on YouTube. I'm gonna have to go watch it and find out about that one. And Hey Cinderella, which did come out, and Hey Cinderella is great. Kermit the Frog appears in that one. Hey Cinderella is really solid. I think you can probably find that on DVD or whatever. And I think sometimes maybe that shows up in places, but I haven't seen these many of these things show up on Disney yet, which is really disappointing because like this stuff's like so great. Maybe they don't own some of these things, and it'd be great to be. They've lost their legacy thing, turning people on to Walt Disney, making people fans of Walt Disney, making people care about who he is, making people care of who Jim Henson is. It's like this is the stuff that matters. Making people care who George Lucas is. That's like what makes it special. Whatever. So then, of course, they go on to Sesame Street in '69 and 1990, kind of off the success of Hey Cinderella and various appearances and whatnot. And Sesame Street's cool. It's interesting. They say Sesame Street created the ADHD epidemic, which I don't think is necessarily true. I think that there are minds that have been coming into this world that have had a little bit more to offer, and they've been kind of like running in place by themselves. And just because they've got like so much to do, and there's kind of a limiting amount of things to do unless you're creative about giving yourself shit to do. I was always pretty good about that, which I think helped my ADHD. Was reading comics and drawing, or whatever it was, singing songs, writing songs, drawing. I said drawing pictures, but like just doing things that I like, playing with toys. To kind of like mitigate my ADHD. But I really think ADHD is like a gift when you find out that people have that. But they have talked about how Sesame Street was a part of that or culprits that. And maybe there's some truth to it. But they said this because basically this is kind of interesting because Jim was pioneering these great commercials that were really effective ad campaigns for various companies that I'll misname if I try to name them right now, but they were very effective commercial campaigns that went on for long periods of time. Ralph was a spokesperson for like some dog food, maybe it was Purina or whatever, for a long time. they were doing various campaigns for different spots, and it was very successful and an easy way to sort of communicate these ideas and these simple gags and whatnot. And they modeled Sesame Street after the way commercials would captivate people quickly, teach them something, in this case, selling them numbers or letters. And they had a very interesting sort of like 60-second per segment kind of thing with Sesame Street. I mean, granted, they broke this a little bit, but a lot of it was meant to be like this segmented bit where they were like bip, 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 bouncing through the various commercials for kids about learning the alphabet and their numbers and how to be kind and how to have good manners and things like that. So it was a very great strategy. It worked amazing. And, I don't know if you were a Sesame Street kid, but I was, and Sesame Street's gone on to this day. Granted, Sesame Street changed a lot when Elmo came along. There's been a lot written about how intellectually it really kind of ruined a lot of the fundamentals of the Muppets. Even though the main thing on Sesame Street is similar to what the Muppet Show is. Like the Muppet Show, like they can't exactly get it right. They want to, learn, but they're a little slow. And the kids on the show are smarter. And Big Bird, it's like this, so, and that's again very encouraging. It's the same thing. It's like for adult creative people, especially. The Muppet Show is like that same thing, that nurturing bit of like, it's like, it's all right, Big Bird, I gotcha. It makes you feel like you're in the power position. So then there's a thing called the Muppets on Puppets. I don't remember that one in particular. Not sure if I maybe missed. Some of these things have not been available at various times. Maybe if they were available now, they weren't available when I was looking for them. There was a point in time where I was trying to get my hands on everything. But I got to see what I got to see, and then occasionally I'll come across something that I haven't seen, but it's pretty fucking rare at this point in time, unless I like go up to look for something on like YouTube or whatever and find out, oh look, this is here. Like recently I watched The Great Santa Claus Switch, which I'm going to get to in a second, which I really love. The Great Santa Claus Switch. I kind of recommend that a little bit, even though the quality of the versions that you can find online are light, but it's just like such a precursor to the Dark Crystal and the Labyrinth and all these other things that he did that were just so cool. Did I skip over the Labyrinth before? I did. It was between Sesame Street and the Witches. 1986 he puts out the Labyrinth. Labyrinth is brilliant. It says in my Twitter bio, I am the babe with the power of voodoo. Which is a line from the movie. There's some great songs in it. David Bowie's in it. He plays the Goblin King. He's pretty cool. Jennifer Connelly's in it. She's beautiful. I had such a crush on her. It's great puppet effects. Great world. Very, very cool and interesting. My ex-wife Patty loves the Labyrinth. I know so many people who love the Labyrinth. If you've not if you're like a Tim Burton fan and you haven't watched the Labyrinth, oh my God, it's great. And I mean, I don't want to build it up too much because maybe it's a little kiddie and it's whatever, like made in the 80s or whatever other thing, but like it's wonderful. All practical effects and just beautiful monsters and great personalities and memorable moments of just like the helping hands and it's like flashing through so many things. It was like, what do you talk about? But I was just like, every part of the movie just has so much heart in it, as everything that Jim Henson does. Really, just there's a lot of heart and there's some great lesson in it, and you wasn't afraid to hit you in the heartstrings, and it's great. And he directed that and as the story for that one, and that one I think was more successful, and I think he felt a little better after doing that one. And Brian Henson plays what's the name? Hoggle. Hoggle, the kind of like goblin dude that she befriends, who's kind of like tricking her and feels bad about it. And it's like an earlier role for him, and he's great. It's great. I love the Labyrinth. I can't believe I skipped over that one. Sorry for skipping over that one. Anyway, back over to the TV stuff. So we start to get into the real deal as Sesame Street comes along. And then we got Muppets on Puppets. There was a ton of specials. The Frog Prince. Frog Prince is great. Frog Prince is generally kind of been available here or there. At least it was on VHS for a long time. And I think eventually it came to like DVD or something. Hopefully you can find that one somewhere. The Muppet Musicians of Bremen, which I talked about at the top of the show, which is 4 animals, a dog, a cat, a rooster, and a donkey. and they're all being abused by their owners who are criminals. And they steal these instruments, and they're like, we don't fucking, who wants these stupid instruments? And the animals end up stealing the instruments and becoming a band and getting revenge on their guys in a sweet way. And it's quite nice. I know it's based on something, a story or whatever. But I haven't read the original, but it's lovely the way the story plays out, and the songs are really fun, and I highly recommend the Muppet Musicians of Bremen. Perhaps not your first thing to do for the Muppets, but eventually. And then there's the Muppet Valentine's Show and the Muppet Show Sex and Violence. So he had this idea for the Muppet Show. He's tried to sell it for a while, and they did a couple different pilots. And what ultimately came to screen with the Muppet Show, and even like what happened in the first season of the Muppet Show to what came into being in the second season of the Muppet Show, and the second, third, and fourth season are probably like the strongest. Fifth season's good too. But the Muppet Show proper, and I mean like these pilots and stuff, I wouldn't recommend watching them until you watch the Muppet Show. There's 5 seasons. Watch them all. If you got to, start from the second season, but I mean like there's great guest stars in the first season. I mean there's great songs, tons of great music. It's fun. Just go in there to have a good time. Sit down and just put it on when you're in a good mood, and try to give yourself a chance to get into the Muppet Show, because it'll be the best thing you ever did for yourself. It's great, and it's encouraging, and it's fun, and it's funny, and you're just gonna fall in love with these characters, Fozzie and Gonzo and Sam the Bald Eagle. Sam the Bald Eagle is one of my fucking favorites. He's just always always lamenting how the show's gone off the rails in one way or another. And like now it's lowbrow humor or whatever it might be. He's just never satisfied. Just like Sam's always, seeing Sam upset is just the best. And Sam's played by Frank Oz, who plays Animal, who plays Miss Piggy. So many of the great classic Muppet characters. And, Jim Henson himself is Kermit the Frog, but he's also the Swedish Chef. He's Captain Link Hogthrob, who I love. He's Dr. Teeth from the Electric Mayhem. Who am I missing? There's a bunch of other ones that he is. He's Ernie to Frank Oz's Bert on Sesame Street, and Uncle Traveling Matt in Fraggle Rock, which I haven't gotten to yet, but some of the thing. He's so many roles. I should have pulled up. Maybe I'll pull up a little Rolodex of like some of the bits that he does. But I mean, there's so many. Oh, Ralph the dog. I love Ralph. Ralph's one of my favorites. So the Muppet Show, man, you gotta watch the Muppet Show. It's just the quintessential Jim Henson thing, and it's just there's so much to learn from it still. I still desperately hope that one day I'm going to be able to work with the Muppets and help them to do this property, or whatever you want to call it, justice. It's such a great tool for people at home, who want to be creative people, to watch the Muppet Show, to watch the Muppets struggle. And I really believe that, and I believe that there's so much more comedy to be mined, and so much more good times to be had there, hanging out with these people, being, watching the lives of these people. I'm trying to find like a longer list of Jim Henson characters here, but of course they only have people that I named: Kermit the Frog, Ralph the dog, Ernie. Yeah, of course. There's a lot more. He's like tons and tons. I should have pulled up a fucking list. Maybe I will before the show's over. But I mean, I'm probably well into my normal show, and I got plenty more to talk about. So let's do it. Let's do more. Beyond the Muppet Show, there's Emmett Otter's Jug Band, which, save it for Christmas. Break it out next Christmas. I always watch Emmett Otter's Jug Band around Christmas. That's like very classic for me. Christmas Eve on Sesame Street is wonderful as well. Quite enjoy that one. And that's in 1978. And then there in 83 to 87 is Fraggle Rock. Now, Fraggle Rock is a show and a concept that blew my mind when I found out what the ultimate concept was for Fraggle Rock. And it was world peace. Jim Henson wanted to write a show that would teach children world peace. That was where he started. And that blew my mind. I was just like, what an abstract concept to begin thinking about a thing. I want to write a show that will teach kids world peace. And to me, it was just sort of like, to start there, what a conundrum. Like, how do you do that? Well, Jim did it this way. He introduced a world where there were humans, and there were Fraggles, and there were dogs, and there were doozers, and there were ogres, and there was the trash heap. And in the beginning, all of these worlds don't understand each other and are almost sort of opposed to one another. But as the show progresses with each season, walls are broken down and they gradually come to know each other better. And by the end of Fraggle Rock, they're all friends, basically. And that is teaching kids world peace. And, it's terrible because it's such a big concept. I don't know what child was able to take that away from the show, but with that being the underlying concept, every show is essentially about world peace and learning these lessons and, try not to demonize each other and misunderstand each other. And what a guy. What a fucking guy. I loved him for that. It just made me love Fraggle Rock that much more. Just made me love him that much more. That, he went into this creative endeavor to enrich the lives of all of our children. It's fucking incredible. And Fraggle Rock's a fun show, and there's great music on Fraggle Rock. I don't know how Fraggle Rock holds up like for adults watching it. I've been wanting to like watch the whole thing just as a study, because I never have. I mean, I think I've probably watched almost every episode, but it was a show that I watched all the time, but I can't be sure that I didn't miss an episode. And I had it on DVD, I think, at some point, but I don't think I got to watch everything. Big Bird in China, I don't remember that one. Don't Eat the Pictures, don't remember that. Little Muppet Monsters, The Muppets, A Celebration of 30 Years. I seem to remember that being really great. The Tale of the Bunny Picnic's not one of my favorite. Introduces Bean Bunny, it's okay. The Christmas Toy. The Christmas Toy is great. Again, another one to break out for Christmas. When I saw Toy Story, I was like, rip off, because a lot of concepts that are in Pixar's Toy Story are in the Christmas Toy. And the Christmas Toy does them in like a lot of ways that are like really, I don't know, kind of heavy, but kind of cool. Highly recommend the Christmas Toy. I mean, do I have to sit here? I'm like 48 minutes, so like I shouldn't like fucking dwell too long on all these. All right. In 87, he produced a show called The Storyteller. And I will say that The Storyteller is a little hit or miss for me. Some of these like old folklore whatevers, they kind of like, I don't know. Sometimes they're kind of open-ended and you don't necessarily feel like you learned anything, and they're unsatisfying. And some of these ones that they adapted in the way the stories are told, they're kind of open-ended and unsatisfying and just the way they are in real life. But visually, very cool. There's tons of Creature Shop stuff in here. Brian Henson does puppeteers the dog of John Hurt, who plays the storyteller, and he just narrates these stories, and there's a ton of different ones, some of which I love. There's a couple of them that I will watch over and over again. There's one with these little red demons, and he's playing cards with them, and he has this bag where anything that he tells to go into the bag has to go into the bag. It's very interesting. It's about death. It's fucking cool. If you're into mythology and you're into stuff like this, it's pretty authentic, and there's lots of cool stuff. The storyteller, and definitely, again, a labor of love for Jim. He executive produced The Storyteller, but it was something that, he had a big passion for. I didn't get to watch the Fraggle Rock, the animated series. A Muppet Family Christmas is one of my favorites. A Muppet Family Christmas is a almost every year Christmas movie for me. Muppet Family Christmas, there are appearances for Sesame Street characters, or I should say all the major Sesame Street characters, appearances from all the major Fraggle Rock characters. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. It's awesome. It's like a great Muppets crossover and very genuinely funny. Great scene in the kitchen between Swedish Chef and Big Bird. I won't spoil, but fucking awesome. Then what do we got here? Sing along, dance along. I don't know. Muppet Babies. Muppet Babies is great. Muppet Babies totally holds up. It stinks that it is not released officially anywhere, and you can only get bootleg stuff to watch of it. But the Muppet Babies was really great. Nanny, they were orphans, and their mother or whatever figure, you never see her face. You only ever see her legs. She comes in and, hi, Donna, and they look up to her. And they just imagine in the playroom, and they go on all these adventures and imagine their future, and it's just these adorable versions of themselves. This little kid trying to be funny, Fozzie, and this adventurer Gonzo constantly getting in trouble and getting hung up in things, and a bookworm Scooter, and his sister Skeeter, who's a tomboy, and and Piggy, who's obsessed with her looks, and Kermit, who's trying to make everybody happy and be a good leader, and it's fucking adorable, and a little adorable Animal, and adorable Ralph, and little adorable Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker when they occasionally show up. I am Professor Bunsen Honeydew, and this is my assistant Beaker, Mimi. I think Bunsen Honeydew was played by Howie Mandel when he would show up, which was cool. Then there's Sesame Street 20 Years and Still Counting. I think I watched that at some point, and I seem to remember enjoying that. But it's a Sesame Street kind of thing, so it's aimed at kids. I'm a big kid, so I enjoy stuff like that, even though. And in '89, he did the Jim Henson Hour. Jim Henson Hour is neat. Jim Henson Hour was like I said, Jim did all these experimental films, and he liked to experiment with different things. It's listed in his Wikipedia. He's an inventor, and he invented lots of different little bits of puppet technology along the way as various things have been needed to be created, and little bits of technology and experimenting, of different things that he could do with puppets and on the Muppet Show and whatnot. And the Jim Henson Hour really took that to the next level. There was some interesting stuff in it. It is a dynamic and interesting show. Not like a funny show, even though sometimes it's funny. It's entertaining, but generally speaking, it's got lots of vignettes of sort of interesting bits. There's all sorts of things that kind of happen on the Jim Henson Hour. It's been a minute since I've watched it, but it was an interesting thing to watch. I wouldn't say that it's if you're a mid-level Jim Henson fan, don't jump into that first. Finally, we got the Muppets at Walt Disney World, which again, I think I watched that, but I don't remember it. So, that's the scope of, Jim's career personally, in TV and all these things. But there's so many more things that he was involved in. And I mean, there are more Muppet films that were produced and little things here or there that, he had some peripheral part of or was produced after his death and his name's on and his characters are on. But one of the biggest contributions that Jim made to film, I think, is Jim Henson's Creature Shop. And Jim Henson's Creature Shop, for me, is alongside, Rick Baker and all the other great special effects masters. Things started in Sesame Street with puppet building for there, and then moving into the Dark Crystal where they built all these great things. But they worked on one of my favorite of mine as a kid, a movie called Return to Oz. And they created all the creature effects for Return to Oz, which is a really, really dope, reimagining, I don't know what you call it, of Oz. The Tin Man so cool, and the flying monkeys. Return to Oz if you're somebody who's like me and you really like love visual stimulation, and like things that just look out of this world and cool and interesting. Return to Oz is a very cool movie, so I recommend that. Also did special effects for creature effects for Dream Child. I don't know what Dream Child is. Labyrinth, which, like I said, is amazing. The Storyteller, creature effects. The Storyteller. I'm forgetting what The Storyteller is. I don't want to get that one wrong. I think that's a pretty cool movie, The Storyteller. It was like a TV movie, and there was like a dragon. Special effects that they did in it. I had this creature shop book, and there was different creatures that I saw in the book that I loved, and I wanted to see the movies where they came from. And one of them, I think, was The Storyteller, and I think that was the one. Or it might be Monster Maker in 1989. That's another one that they did creature shop effects for. I'm not sure. The Bear, Lighthouse Island, The Ghost of Favner Hill, which was a puppet show that they produced. I don't know why that wasn't on the other list. That was like a thing. I don't know if it was just a pilot. It was something that they did. It's interesting, the puppets. I just remember seeing a picture for the promotion. I never watched it. But cooler than that, they did all the effects for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The 3 films with all their moving eyes and those practical effects of the Ninja Turtles, that was all Jim Henson's Creature Shop. And I don't know about you, but I really like that stuff, and seeing the CGI ones like made me appreciate it that much more. We talked about the witches. There's a movie called Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. There was a great TV show which introduced the great Bill Beretta, who is now the puppet captain. He does Ralph. He was Earl Sinclair on Dinosaurs, which was a great sitcom, and the creature effects were done by Jim Henson's Creature Shop. And fucking A, man. If you haven't watched Dinosaurs, that's a great one. That's worth checking. That's like you can dive into that whenever. The Muppet Show, Dinosaurs, that's a good place to start with some Jim Henson stuff. There's a movie called The Polar Bear King. Big Bunny plush doll was made for the Honey, I Blew Up the Kids. I guess they just did that one thing. The Muppet Christmas Carol, obviously, they worked on. Wolf It, I don't know some of these movies. The Neverending Story 3, they did creature effects. They did the creature effects for the Flintstones. I don't know about you. I've come to really appreciate the Flintstones movie with John Candy and Rick Moranis and what's her name? Rosie O'Donnell. And that movie's great. And the creature effects are great. I mean, the look of everything and the town and just shit's amazing. Also for Babe in 1995, it's a great one. And for Cutthroat Island, I vaguely remember that movie. They did some animatronics. In the 101 Dalmatians, first live action movie, creature effects. The Adventures of Pinocchio in 1996, creature effects. The English Patient, they did the prosthetic effects. The Phantom, they did the Phantom suit. Samson and Delilah, they did the Mechanical Lion. I never saw that one. In Buddy, they did the creature effects. They did George of the Jungle creature effects for like all those animals and stuff, animatronic animals. The Odyssey creature effects, Lost in Space creature effects, Dr. Dolittle creature effects, Jack Frost creature effects, Alice in Wonderland creature effects, Animal Farm creature effects, My Favorite Martian creature effects, The Talented Mr. Ripley visual effects, Mission to Mars in 2000 wire removal. So now, I mean, this is after Jim's death, but like this, Jim Henson's Creature Shop has gone on, and it's going to still go on. I'll keep sharing more. Brotherhood of the Wolf, the creature effects. I love that movie. I was trying to show it to Julie. I want to do a special episode of Brotherhood of the Wolf this weekend, possibly, if I get a chance to watch it, on that movie. I might not be able to do it this weekend, but we'll see. Flintstones Viva Rock Vegas, they came back to do some more. A movie called Rat. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, they did the creature effects for the Harry Potter movies, or I don't know, at least for that one. Gosford Park, Snow Dogs, Stuart Little 2. Oh yeah, I guess they switched to fucking CGI after that, but they did Philosopher's Stone. Gosford Park, Snow Dogs, Stuart Little 2, The Master of Disguise, The Country Bears, which sucked. Looney Tunes Back in Action, Stand-in Puppets, The Lady Killers, Puppets, Around the World in 80 Days, Visual Effects, Five Children and It, Character Animations, Pride, Visual Effects and Animatronics, Are We There Yet, Performance Animation, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Puppet Fabrication, Batman Begins, they did the visual effects of the Scarecrow. The Producers, they did creature effects. Darjeeling Limited, animatronic Tiger. Forgetting Sarah Marshall, they did the puppets. The Hangover, they did the tiger in the car. Where the Wild Things Are, they did the creature effects. The Muppets, puppet costumes only. Muppets Most Wanted, Puppets along with Puppet Heap, Jim Henson's Creature Shop Challenge, Oscar Hotel for Fantastical Creatures, Grumpy Cat's Worst Christmas Ever, The Jungle Book, Stand-in Puppets, Rock Dog, The Happy Time Murders. That was great. I haven't finished it. I started watching that recently. They did The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, which I told you was incredible. Creature effects for Rise of Skywalker. There's some great creature effects in the background. Those movies suck, but the fucking creature effects are great. Earth to Ned, Come to Play, Duff's Happy Fun Bake Time, Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock, that's the recent remake, Pinocchio visual effects in 2022, and Five Nights at Freddy's. They did the animatronics, which was great, just most recently. Others down here, Snuggle, the Snuggle Bear for the commercials, Lending Tree, Lenny, Jack in the Box, The Muppet Jack, Hamburger Helper Glove, The Joy of Music, Joy, Henson Alternative, Puppet Up, Uncensored, 53rd Annual Grammy Awards, Nintendo Digital Events, Coldplay's Music of the Spheres, The Weirdos. So much shit, man. This is from the Creature Shop. This is like, thank you, Jim. Can everybody say thank you, Jim? Thank you, Jim. Thanks, Jim. You know, you owe Avenue Q to Jim. Just like you owe fantasy breaking through in more ways to Jim. You know, like I mean, granted, George Lucas helped with that. Like, there are many people to thank, but really, we owe so many things to thank to Jim. And then, you know, one of the greatest things that Jim did for me was introduce me to one of my other heroes, who I think I pulled up right here. The great fucking Frank Oz, who was Jim's right-hand man forever. And, you know, he came to direct lots of things for the Muppets and, you know, produce and whatever else. And he's gone on to do a lot more than just that. Famously, he plays the corrections officer in the Blues Brothers movie. And he's also the voice of Elwood's building manager. And he's the voice of Yoda. And he's in the Muppet movie. He's a creative consultant. And, you know, he's Fozzie Bear. He's Miss Piggy. He's Sam Eagle. He's Animal. He's Marvin Suggs. He's lots of great characters. And, you know, he's in the Great Muppet Caper. I'm not sure when he started, like, directing them. I'll see when there's notations here. I'm using fucking Wikipedia. But, sorry, my mouth's dry and I don't have any water. And The Empire Strikes Back, he's Yoda, of course. The Great Muppet Caper. An American Werewolf in London, he plays Mr. Collins. Let's see, The Dark Crystal, he's Agra Chamberlain. He's the ugly woman with the one eye passing it all around. He's awesome. Agra. And then in 1983, he's the surgeon in a deleted scene in Superman 3. He's Yoda in Return of the Jedi. In Trading Places, he's the booking cop. The Muppets Take Manhattan, 1985. You know, he's also Bert and he's Cookie Monster. Fucking Frank Oz is the best. He's Grover. Ah, my furry blue body. I love Grover. Spies Like Us, he was the Test Protector. Sesame Street, Cookie Monster, Bert, Grover. In Follow That Bird, he's in, you know, Muppet 3D. He's in Labyrinth as the Wise Man. Who's the character of the Wise Man? Oh, I think he's got like a mustache in the middle of the movie. Let's see. Innocent Blood, The Muppet Christmas Carol. Yes. Have I mentioned that the stupidest thing that Disney hasn't done, is that they haven't brought Frank Oz in to run the Muppets? It's just like so fucking insulting. And the day they do that, I'll reach out to Bill Beretta again and I'll start trying to work for the Muppets. Yoda, Muppets from Space, The Adventures of Elmo and Grouchland. The Adventures of Elmo and Grouchland is actually awesome, by the way. You should watch it. It's really great. In Monsters Inc., he plays Jeff Fungus, which is fun. He comes to play some characters in Zathura. He plays the robot. He's Yoda, Being Elbow, and I Am Big Bird. He's himself in those documentaries. In Inside Out, he's the subconscious guard, Dave. Star Wars Force Awakens, Muppet Guys, being himself, Knives Out, Alan Stevens. Oh, I didn't notice that he was in Knives Out. I didn't notice that. Okay, so that's one thing, him as a performer. And like, you know, whatever. Dude, him as a director? Title, The Dark Crystal, co-director with Jim Henson. Muppets Take Manhattan, he directed. He also wrote. One of my favorite movies of all time, probably in my top 10, The Little Shop of Horrors. also did ADR voice for that. But he directed Little Shop of Horrors, which is Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, and one of the greatest musicals ever written, one of the greatest movies ever made, I think. And the fucking special effects in that movie, what they did to achieve their stuff. And Creature Shop wasn't available. They had to bring in another company to do their plan effects for Little Shop of Horrors, and it is some of the greatest fucking puppeteering, and man, magnificent. Not only that, this motherfucker directed Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which is great. What About Bob, which is awesome. Bill Murray, I don't know if you've seen that one. That's a really great one. House Sitter with Goldie Hawn, very cute movie as well. And I think Steve Martin, great one. The Indian in the Cupboard he directed, which is all right. In and Out, which is a favorite of mine. Really like that one. Bowfinger, which is another like unsung favorite. You're gonna be a star. You're doing great. Bowfinger, classically, Eddie Murphy plays this. He plays this movie star, and they have to get somebody who looks like him to film the remaining scenes of their movie because the star refuses to film them. And they get this dude to come in to sub for him, and he's just such a doofus, and it's awesome. And Steve Martin plays such a shyster. I think Bowfinger was written by Steve Martin, maybe. So it's a good one. He also directed the score with Ed Norton and Robert De Niro. And The Stepford Wives, which was cool. Death at a Funeral, which is a good one. I didn't realize he'd made Muppet Guys Talking, Secrets Behind the Show, The Whole World Watched. I got to watch that because I haven't had a chance to watch that one yet. And then apparently in 2021 he directed a movie called Derek Delgadio's In and of Itself. I haven't seen that, don't know anything about that one. But amazing. As a producer, he executive produced The Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island, producer, The Great Muppet Caper, and other things. Then in television as well, working Sesame Street, Saturday Night Live when they did their stuff for a little while. The Jim Henson famously did a season of what was it, the Muppets? They had like this weird thing that they did. It was a little weird. It's not my favorite of their stuff. It didn't exactly work on the show. But of course he worked on so many of the other things that we talked about, just seeing if there's anything that he worked on that's like beyond what the scope of things that we already spoke about. Okay, no. So I mean, that covers a good range of it. I mean, obviously, I could get into more, and I could get into deeper stuff and more stuff that have been produced by Jim Henson Company, and there are other great things and plenty of things that I could talk about. But, at an hour and 6-7 minutes that we're about to hit right now, I feel like I've probably done my due diligence here. Jim said, and there were so many great quotes by Jim, but the one that I always like to remember was that it was his hope that the world would be a better place for him having been here. And I am here to tell you emphatically that it is. It is, Jim. It is. It is a better world because you were here. Thank you so much for being here, Jim. Thank you for sharing your brilliance with us. Thank you for raising up so many brilliant people around you, like Frank Oz and others. Thank you for being such a wonderful human being to think about world peace when you're creating these things, to think about friends and relationships and, to just not sell out and just to be your unique self and make your unique art for your whole career, just to go out making just beautiful things. And his funeral so beautiful, and I have the magazine from when he died, the Time magazine, and the article on his life and his death, and was wrecked finding out that Jim Henson passed away. And the world seems a little darker ever since he went away, but it's up to us to shine that much brighter so that we can make up for the loss when people like Jim go away. I was struggling what to call this episode because I was going to say, Coolest Geeks Are Dead. But I think I settled on Coolest Geek Who Ever Lived, Jim Henson.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Anyway, I'm your host, Jesse Blaze Snider. If you like music like me, you can join me every Monday. Usually, I was a little late this week. Every Monday night for my show, All Your Favorite Bands Suck. And then, of course, you can join me every Wednesday. Again, I'm a day late here. Sorry about that. And every Saturday, kicking ass and taking names. You can also email me at jesseblaze@jessesnider.com. I'm really excited for all you people who supported my comic book, King of Kings. We're actually been shipping some of those out in the mail, so some people will start getting those. And for those of you who've been asking if there are any available still, you have to go over to like my Facebook, because that's like the only place where I'm. Well, I mean, if you reach out to me on whatever social media, I'm sure I can probably like direct you to something. But yeah, we have a little bit left, but we didn't print a lot. We didn't, like, we wanted it to be special, and we figured we would do like another print of the thing in the future. So, you know, when we did issue 2, we would do like a reprint or whatever. So we'll do that. But anyway, I love you. Thank you guys so much for supporting the book and supporting the stuff that I do. And people who went to go watch the music video last week. We've been getting a lot of views on Dilf USA's new video, Money Ain't Funny. It's a lampooning the strikes. It's pretty funny. And my girl Julie directed it, and she's awesome and did a great job. And I'm really proud of that one. Even though it's kind of simple and kind of thrown together to a certain degree, I think it came out really great. Anyway, thank you guys for your support in all these things, and thank you guys for listening to the show. I hope you appreciate my passionate approach to all of this material, and I hope you guys have appreciated my switch to try to add as much sunshine to this geek culture conversation as I possibly can in the midst of all of the negativity that we find ourselves in these days. Anyway, I love you. Care Bear Stare. Join me again next time on another ass-kicking episode of the Coolest Geek Alive. Love you guys. Bye.
You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snider. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
It's my favorite part! Isn't that heavy? I played that! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Coolest alive! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Stay with your tribe! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Revenge of the Geeks! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Week after weeks! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Laughing with you! It's gonna be fucking awesome! And crying sometimes too! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Spelling it out! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Making you shout! I'm a genius! I've got lyrics coming out me bum for days! You like that? It's a kazoo solo! I played that too! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Talking some shit! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Living your shit! My voice is fucking awesome! Food in our mouth! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Get in the mouth! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Tell all your friends! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Call right on text! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Raising the bar! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Straight to the stars! It's gonna be fucking awesome! It's starting soon! Straight to the top of the pops for this one! Passing the moon! It's gonna be fucking awesome! On with the show! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Ready, set, go! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Fucking awesome! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Just wait! You'll see! You'll all see!
The podcast playground. Hooray!